Hi there. We're here today to talk to you about digital transformation in higher education. Technology advances are enabling easier, more efficient, and often more effective ways of doing business. We call this digital transformation, or DX. How does DX affect teaching, learning, research, and operations in higher education? And what do we need for DX, and what might be getting in our way? I'm Gillian Bell, a project manager at Brown University.
I'm Catherine Zabriskie. I'm the Senior Director of Digital Learning and Design at Brown University. We're going to introduce you to the concept of digital transformation, or DX, and share 3 projects from our work at Brown. And while we talk about those projects, we're going to make sure that we share with you the problem that we set out to solve, the solution we developed, and then some unexpected wins along the way. Digital transformation is defined as the integration of digital technologies into all areas of a business, fundamentally changing how the business operates and delivers value to customers. When we talk about digital transformation, we talk about how organizations change and how individuals respond to that disruption. The skills needed, the needs of the users, we talk about all of that taking place at a very rapid pace. To move from this disruption to transformation, things have to go very quickly. And digital transformation as a concept is gaining a lot more attention in higher education.
The driver of digital education, the driver of digital transformation in higher ed is really students. So keep in mind that we got these statistics before COVID, and they tell us that students engage with technologies before they come to our institutions. And then once they arrive, they expect technology to be part of their teaching. They expect a certain amount of fluidity and fluency in technology from their faculty. So right now, Generation Z, students ages 14 through 21, are going to come in and they will represent the majority of our students. And they don't know a time without internet. They like content that's streaming in short segments, offered through YouTube, and they consume it mostly on their phones and computers. How do Gen Z learn? 51% learn by doing, 38% learn by seeing, and 12% learn by listening. Gen Z may be representative of the majority of our students, but they're not all of our students. Not all of our students will be from this generation. So we have to be flexible and consider the needs of a variety of learners.
So the technology that's available to us is also one of the major drivers of digital transformation. So the technology trends and changes are enabling these new ways of doing things or new capabilities. Personalization provides information that's tailored just for the individual, information that's timely and that is also location and context aware. That's made accessible through mobile devices. So whether it's wearables or your mobile phone, we expect to see the personalized information on any one of these devices that we may have with us at any given time. And then as we see artificial intelligence and machine learning being part of our home lives, as we consider smart systems like Google Home or Alexa, they can perform tasks and learn what we need from them. Big data is a term for the data that is being produced by all of these devices. And having that just sheer volume of data allows us to look and see patterns and uncover complex patterns from all this data and trends. And then it all takes place because of cloud computing software that allows us to connect these different applications over the internet using a web browser. So we're no longer is relying upon installing applications on our desktops. We access things through the cloud.
And what's the airplane all about?
So the airplane, Gillian. The airplane is just a way for me to share an example. So let's say, for example, you're headed to California and you check your bag, you go through security using your phone because you have your flight reservation, all that information on your phone. That becomes your boarding pass. As you load the plane and you settle in, you get a text that tells you that your bag has actually been loaded onto the plane rather than having to look out the window and see if you can see it being unloaded. You head out on your flight. As you land in Los Angeles at LAX, you deplane, and then you receive another notification that says that your bag has been unloaded and it will be at carousel 3A. So you have no confusion about where to go get your bag. As you head down the concourse, you get a text that says up ahead, 5-minute walk away is a Starbucks. And so then it encourages you to just hit that button and put in your favorite order for Starbucks so that as you walk past the Starbucks, your coffee is ready. So we wouldn't think twice about that experience. All those different steps along the way are just kind of what we now learn to expect. And that's all made available because of digital transformation. Next slide, Gillian. Brown has a fairly new chief digital officer, William Thirsk, who came to our campus and led the charge for digital transformation. He has launched multiple big projects and to accomplish the common goal of frictionless experiences for our community members. So this means providing easy access to the tool that the community needs to do their work, and all the data easily accessible so that the community members can make informed decisions. Here's one example. This is our new portal, my.brown, that gives us easy access to the different applications and information and data that we need to do our jobs. So I'm going to introduce our first project as an example. This is our project about removing barriers and enabling computer science. So at Brown, we have a very robust computer science department. And it's growing. And this is one opportunity for students to learn programming. So we also have some community opportunities. So we have various hackathons. We have workshops available through different groups, through our digital science initiative, through the library. But I began to think about what are all the opportunities that students have to learn programming after a conversation with a faculty member. A faculty member shared with me his idea that we could potentially create modules or standalone little units that are relevant to programming that could be included into courses across all disciplines. So next slide, please. So he and I began to think about that idea, and I can articulate the problem that programming helps students learn science and conduct research in all sorts of disciplines, but non-computer science instructors are challenged by how to introduce programming without overwhelming their students or burdening their syllabi, to be honest. So next slide. As we talked, we originally had this idea of creating these modules or standalone.
There you go.
That's all right. There you go. Standalone pieces to drop it to these courses. But then we realized quickly that programming for non-CS courses becomes quickly domain specific. So it's really about learning the discipline. It's not about learning programming. Programming enables the learning of the discipline. So we decided to avoid generalizing the concepts into workshops or training series that would be offered to everyone and focus in on the needs of a discipline. And what we found as we thought about it in this way, we found that there are some commonalities across disciplines. So for example, the need for just ease of access to the programming environment, that it needs to be friendly. And that part of what we're looking to do, and this is again relevant across disciplines, is make sure that students are able to do computing without having to set up things on their own computers, because that can take time out of the class. There's also the need to distribute the content, whether it be notes or assignments, and then of course collecting the works of the students. So next slide, please. Our work started with the physics department, and we took those common needs and we looked for a solution, and we selected Jupyter Hub to serve as the friendly programming interface. And so we are delivering Jupyter notebooks through Jupyter Hub that's running on Google Cloud. And Jupyter Hub allows students to write Python code without having to install any Python on their machines. Next. So the environment is basically the compute environment without the setup. The student is able to just use a web browser to connect, and they are then provided with a working environment that has all the programming languages already installed as needed. It's a pre-configured environment that allows the students to do their work. And this next slide will show you a visual of what the student experienced. So in case you haven't seen a notebook, the student is allowed to enter text, the code into the file editor, and then it shows the visualization of what they've just programmed. So it's very, very immediate, and that's important for students that are just learning. So we are relying on GitHub Classroom for distributing and collecting the lectures and assignments, and also we work with Canvas and with Google Drive for the students to submit their work and to receive the grades. So we've been very happy with the response that we've received from faculty. So as you can, I won't read the quote, I'll let you read it, but faculty we've been able to accomplish what we set out to do. So the faculty have been able to introduce programming into their courses, but the students were able to have been able to gain the experience, but it's been not a burden on the instructor or on the students. And one thing that an unexpected win from this project is that we made connections all across campus. Like as we began these conversations, we made connections with groups that we had not worked as closely with in the past. So I think that has been an unexpected win, that we now have these strong relationships as we continue to evolve this project. So now I'll turn it over to Gillian to share with you project number 2.
So the second project we're going to talk about is digital education dashboards. And the big goal of this project was to respond to questions about digital tools on campus. And I think before this project, we sort of scrambled. People would say, how many folks are using 3 or more tools in our LMS, which is Canvas? And now we have that information at our fingertips, and I'll tell you how we got there. So this is our data lake. We got the data from multiple sources and put it into one location. And this means you can store the data just as it is and run different kinds of analytics, from dashboards and visualizations to real-time analytics and machine learning. So that's pretty complicated, but it's great to have the data all in one place. Our goals were many. We wanted to get an understanding of Google Cloud Platform, which is where we were keeping the data. We wanted to put up that data lake infrastructure, build a pipeline process that gets the data from one place to another, use that infrastructure to power these dashboards that we built in Tableau. We used Agile and Scrum project management, which we've never done before on a project this big. And so I learned a lot. And so that goes with the last point, that we learned and upskilled as we went along. Most importantly, once you have that data, it's important to not keep it to yourself. You need to share the trends with decision makers and with faculty as well. Oops. So this is one of our favorite visualizations. It tells us the story of Canvas adoption, use, and saturation across campus. Hovering over each area gives you more information. So you can look at the big picture, or you can drill into details, and you can ask questions like, okay, why aren't people in this particular department using this tool in this semester? Or if we see a spike, we can say, okay, what happened to make this tool get a lot more popular? And now that we have the data lake, we began working and learning from home, not by choice. And there were questions about how many instructors were using Zoom, the Zoom plugin inside of Canvas. And because we had that data in the lake already, it was easy to build a visualization and share that with decision makers. And we're continuing to look at external tools, the things that are not baked into Canvas, to help our decision makers understand the technology that faculty use to teach. And we're also looking at how these tools are being used with real-time analytics that tell those stories. So those are things like time on task, so that can tell us student success. Like if a student does really well on a test, we like to see, well, how much time did they spend on this page studying? Speaking of digital tools and saturation, back in 2017, we started looking at new video conferencing or web conferencing tools because the solution that we had at that point was really underused. We saw departments going out and purchasing their own Skype accounts, and we wanted something that was easy to use and would be used across the university. So we went with Zoom, which is what we're using to record this presentation today. And we did some things right. We put a lot of effort into training, publicity, really good documentation. And in our first month, we were proud to report that we had 39 meetings. That was back in August of 2017. So we felt confident about our rollout, and things went pretty well for our first few years. And we had this sort of great support model. We said, okay, this person is going to support meetings and events, and these folks are going to support Zoom for teaching, and Zoom is always available for 24/7 support. Oops.
And then COVID hit and everything changed.
Let me go back. There we go. There we go.
There it is. So COVID hit and everything changed. And this isn't unique to Brown, but if we all remember, on March 13th, we were asked to leave our campuses in many cases, and we had to quickly shift gears and figure out how to continue running the university from remote locations. So we then had a new problem. So basically the problem became, how might we move all of our operations off the university campus in the face of the pandemic and keep things going because we're in the middle of a semester.
So even though we're in this great age of digital transformation, we still have to meet with each other. And sometimes we need a lot of people at the table making decisions, but they don't have to be literally at a table. So sometimes our group uses chat to make quick decisions instead of a long email channel, a long email thread.
Right.
But more than likely, we spend a lot of time in meetings.
Gillian, what is that picture? I'm sorry.
Oh, that's from Dr. Strangelove, the movie. It keeps going back and forth. So there we go. A lot of people trying to come to one big decision. Oops. So we use Zoom for everything now. In April of 2020, we had over 82,000 meetings, and that number has only increased. Part of our culture, even though we are moving to this digital transformation, we have to use technology carefully and respect each other's boundaries. So these are all headlines from different publications, from Twitter, where people just talking about Zoom fatigue, how Zoom makes them really tired. And at the beginning of the pandemic, we were having all these cool happy hours and dance parties. And I've seen those kind of dwindle because people are tired of being at work all day, seeing each other, and then seeing their friends over Zoom. So some recommendations that we have are to hide your self view so you don't have to look at yourself in a meeting, agree to take breaks and make some ground rules, and use virtual backgrounds like Catherine and I are doing today so you can put yourself anywhere. Oops. You never know what's going to happen and when a service will be more widely used. So how can we get ahead of potential disasters? The answer there, I think, is to be flexible and use what we have to improve things iteratively. So this is a new support model we have. We have a steering committee. We've broken up responsibilities a different way. We have Zoom buddies they're students who know Zoom really well and can be in a class with a faculty member to sort of help them. And so the faculty member can focus on the teaching and not on the technology. And this is my Trello card that just sort of tracks where we are with our project and kind of move things across and where we have to focus our attention as we continue to use Zoom.
And one thing that we're finding with Zoom is that the community was forced to use it, but there's been some really good results of that. And one of that is that everyone is just much more comfortable with Zoom, surely because of the amount of time people have used it. I was recently in a meeting of around, I want to say there were 55 people, the majority of whom were faculty members. We set out, a faculty member was leading the meeting, and she was interested in introducing the topic and then wanting us to break into breakout groups so that we could have a more intimate conversation. And she was having trouble setting up the breakout rooms the way she wanted. And as she was starting the meeting and saying, we're having a little trouble assigning the facilitators, and it was just barely a minute before another faculty member said, oh, I just did that this morning in my class. This is what we figured out to do as a way to make it to accomplish what she wanted. And I was struck by the fact that the faculty member was able to just make a suggestion and solve the problem. And so in a sense, we've now become a community of problem solvers for each other to use the tools as we need them. And as we think back about these three different projects, we've seen some common elements. And one of those elements is that digital transformation really makes it easier for people to do their jobs. And at the university, that means administrators running the university, it means faculty, instructors teaching, it means students learning, and that technology enables this digital transformation, but it's really about the people in the groups coming together across reporting lines, across functions, and working together to make the real change. It's really about the people and the connections and the communities that are causing the change. The technology just enables it.
And I wanted to jump back to the conversation a little bit about upskilling. So this can happen naturally. For example, people having to use Zoom, and like what Catherine said, people teaching each other and learning from each other so they get more comfortable with the tool. And then there's formal upskilling like we did for the Dashboards project and for Jupyter Hub. These learning opportunities bring digital transformation to our everyday lives, and it makes it not jarring, but just sort of natural, even though everything is changing.
So we'd like to thank you for spending the time with us. There's a few resources if you want to dig in a little bit deeper. I am a big fan of the 7 Things You Should Know, and there's a great article on digital transformation. And this is an article that I found very useful as well. And thanks to the Noun Project for providing just the right icons to help us tell our story. Thank you.
Thanks so much.